like to welcome everybody out to Robbins Podcast number 9. Back on the old bench again. It's been a little while. Like to welcome Michelle. She's been in one podcast prior. That was in a different format. So welcome. First time to the bench, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So I guess it's been a long enough time. We should probably check in. So anything anybody wants to shout out there, what's going on good in your life right now?
Work's good. This is awesome. Okay. Another podcast. Been waiting on this for a long time. Life, kids are getting big. Richard, I guess Creedster's pretty old. What's he, a year and a half?
18, 19 months.
Yeah. Something like that, somewhere in there.
It's way different than a year and a half. 18 months, totally different.
We should probably, simplify that a little bit. Yeah. Kids are getting big, especially Steve and Michelle's kids.
We're running out of kids really at this point.
We're losing children.
We're 50-50. We got 2 left at the house and 2 are gone. So
that's sad.
Skylar and I are ramping up, and Steve and Michelle are ramping down.
Yeah. That's right.
On kids' activities, anyway.
We're busier now than we've ever been with just 2 kids at home. So,
and we're going to blame that on Reese. Okay, let's be honest. Let's bring that out and put it on the table. That's Reese's fault.
100%. We saved the high maintenance kids for last.
Yes, yeah.
That's what we did.
Golf and volleyball. There you go.
Super grateful for my oldest 2 boys. They're pretty chill.
Super funny.
That's awesome. We've actually had a lot of changes happen within our industry here recently, so maybe we could quickly highlight some changes and some things we're navigating through. Keep in mind, like our customers, what things they can anticipate and expect that's maybe going to affect them, and how we're trying to address those things and stuff like that. So what are we thinking? What things do we want to shout out there?
One of the biggest things for every human on this globe is AI. That's affecting everybody. It hasn't skipped heating and air conditioning, but the benefit is we're keeping pace with it, and we understand a little bit of how it's affecting us. So
I know I really feel like it's the beginning, so it makes half the stuff really hard, and then half. I just wish everything was like ChatGPT. That would make life so much easier. That helps me out so much on a daily basis. So if we could just make everything like ChatGPT, that's definitely the best and the smartest AI I feel like we have. So
yeah, it's fast, and it's going to change some things, but luckily we're learning it, keeping up to speed with it. So
it changed my whole perspective when you showed me that it mapped out your entire vacation that you've yet to take. I'm still waiting on you guys to go to Turkey.
3 seconds.
So, yeah. And you showed me that, and it was 5 pages long. I was like, this is unbelievable.
I know where to stay, where to eat, what transportation to take. It's insane. Now I just have to verify all those things are actually in effect. That those are real things.
Real things.
We're going on a vacation?
Yeah.
You're going to Turkey.
In about 18 months.
Yeah. Your flight's already booked, so don't try to get out of this.
We're leaving in 18 months. We got to figure it out now, though.
Well, everything's a lot faster with ChatGPT. We thought that Michelle thought this would take a little longer than whatever,
No,
than 4 minutes.
Not in today's world.
So as far as AI goes, as hard as it is and the changes that are going to happen, what benefits do you think there will be for customers and for us with that?
I think one thing that I've seen is people are starting to use it to diagnose their systems. The benefit of that is you get a quick, hey, you need to change your filter, or, you get a quick answer. The downside is you're missing all the industry experience. So they're giving you things that are maybe that work across the nation, but we have a unique, every area has a little bit of a nuance, and sometimes it takes that experience to know what little tips and tricks you might need. So you might need a new filter, or you might need, another 2-step or 3-step process to fix your system. So it's good for a quick answer.
So some of what we're going to dive in today would be that is just putting the homeowner at ease with unexpected. Sometimes they have breakdowns. They have, nobody with our industry, it's hard because we're as needed. Nobody really goes out shopping for heating and air conditioning until it's needed, usually, or if they have a service call or a breakdown, whatever. But yeah, I think that using what you talked about, planning a vacation, people could use ChatGPT to quickly try to pinpoint, help ease their mind. Should I call a provider? Could I try to maybe change a filter first? And maybe it's going to steer you not in the right direction every time, but at least it'll help you to start to navigate the right direction, so you know when you should call us and when we can come in and help and put the situation at ease, that kind of thing.
A lot of people don't want to talk on the phone anymore. If you notice that, like a lot of the younger generation and my generation too, it's like they don't want to talk to anyone. They don't want to deal with anybody. They want to schedule everything online. They want to, and I think ChatGPT could really help you with that instant response effect, right? So it may not always be the right answer, but at least maybe it could guide you in the right direction. So that's a really good point.
I feel like I'm the old person in here. So
that's actually a fact. You should feel like that because that's you. Yeah, that's you.
I didn't grow up with the internet in my hands all the time. So for me, I look at it and see some of the frustrations that our older generation has with it. Just the move toward nobody really wanting to talk. Well, my generation and those that are grayer haired, like I'm getting, I think for the most part, they need to talk to somebody. That's just the way business was done forever. And so some of that, hopefully there's a fine medium that we can learn and figure out how to take both of those worlds, because they both exist at this point in time, and serve both demographics. So
I think that's something too that we do pretty well, just trying to be that friendly voice, the knowledgeable voice, all the training we do on the phones, but also keeping pace with booking online, getting prices online, all those things that people just want to kind of learn things before they make the phone call or make the appointment. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, what we're shooting for.
I think a goal of ours and something that's always been on the forefront of my mind is just keeping that personal touch, because naturally nobody will ever be able to do our job other than people having that face-to-face interaction. And you're going to have people who don't want to talk on the phone. They want it to all just kind of happen, right? And I think as we stay with the times, we can fit that and help those that need us just to show up when they schedule us online and maybe get a text message and stuff like that. But there's also going to be a lot of people for quite a long time that want that face-to-face. They want to be comforted by hearing a voice on the phone and that kind of thing. That's always been important to me, because I think maybe that's important to me too. I have somewhat of an old soul, I guess, in that aspect of things, of just making sure that I feel comfortable with who's coming to my house, and that I maybe have got to talk to them prior and that kind of thing. And that really does, no matter how much you try, that person to person interaction is needed. So I think other elephants in the room, one big one is the refrigerant change that just recently happened. So we dealt with this a few years ago when they changed refrigerant on us, and new equipment and manufacturing problems and back orders and inventory issues and things like that. So that's something that we're going to navigate again. And maybe we can think back to when we did that before and how we're going to kind of navigate that now that we've had experience before with it, and how to move forward. So what would we do or tell our homeowners and our customers to help ease their mind as we move forward through these things?
I think for one thing, just understanding what the refrigerant is that's in the system, right? That's what makes your heating and cooling, actually your cooling side, work, right? Is the refrigerant that flows through the system there. When I started in the industry, it was the refrigerant that was used primarily was R22. And in early 2000s is when it switched over to 410A. Now, we've been running 410A for almost 20 years. And so this new refrigerant that switched over this year, being effective this year, is R454B or R32. And both of those, how they're different, they're unique in their own perspective, and you can't swap the two. You can't put 454B in a 32 system or vice versa. So I think one of that is just trying to understand, one, why did the industry go that way? The industry went that way because it was regulated by the Department of Energy and some EPA stuff and stuff like that. And so that's why the changes affect. It's a cleaner refrigerant. It's better for the atmosphere and stuff like that. And so as we're trying to be good stewards of the land and stuff like that, we're trying to make that work out and do the best. And I think that's what some of the changes come for. Now there's a lot of challenges that come with that, and we're going to be dealing with them a little bit this year. And so we'll navigate that and go from there.
So if I was a homeowner, like, how would I know what refrigerant my system had in it? Like, I know because I do this, but like if I didn't know anything about it, how would I be able to tell what my system had?
You can always look on a nameplate, right? If you have an outdoor unit, the nameplate will always tell you.
Okay.
Or an easy way that it's not 100% accurate, but if you're just looking for a close guesstimate, would be kind of like what Steve was saying. If you use your time frame, how old's your equipment? How long has it been there, right? If it's been there prior to 2025, from 2005 to 2025, you can almost guarantee that it's going to be 410A almost every time. So, and prior to that would be R22. That there's not too many R22 systems left out there, but they're still running around. So you could kind of use a time frame to get a pretty good guesstimate if you wanted to know. Say if your nameplate, they sit out in the sun, so they go away, and you can't, sometimes it's hard to see the lettering or whatnot. So easy way to tell.
I think one thing that I would tell a homeowner that's listening to this, one of our customers, whoever it might be, is be prepared for when that time frame is up, because as refrigerant gets more and more dated, as now we've had another change in refrigerant, R22 is going to start to become even more obsolete, where they're going to start focusing on now manufacturing 410A parts, and keeping those in stock for all the people who have recently had those systems installed. And I think that R22 that's always been the game plan. It'll continue to be phased out more and more. But rather than just putting it on the back burner in the back of your mind and not thinking about, hey, when does this system need to be replaced? What happens if it fails? What happens if I have a big failure and I'm looking at a costly repair? Something that you can do to put your mind at ease is to just be prepared for the expense of either repairing or probably replacing a system, especially when you're talking about R22. So like Skylar said, when you start talking about that 20-plus-year-old system, you really should be prepared. It's coming, and it's going to happen, and it's unfortunate, right? But if we face the facts, it's more comforting. So as a homeowner, right, instead of like now it's a surprise and I'm frustrated and things like that, being more proactive and more prepared can definitely put your mind at ease. And if you're not sure, hey, I don't know, I bought this house and I'm not sure, how old the system is, our comfort advisors give free home evaluations and free estimates. So it's one of those things where if you have questions or want to start budgeting or repair, planning, you can do one of two things. You could either do maintenance on your system and your maintenance technician could let you know how old your system is, or you could have a comfort advisor come look at it, tell you the age of it, and let you know kind of costs and how to start to plan and budget and prepare for that.
Yeah, I think that's the one part that's valuable to know somebody, so that you don't have to navigate through the entire internet of R22, R410A, R454B, and trying to wrap your head around that. If you don't know what it is, to know somebody who does. Mm-hmm. So that's where we come in. I mean, you guys.
Michelle doesn't give herself enough credit.
I can set an awesome appointment for one of you to go out there.
But no, I think, I did, as a comfort advisor, I did that for years where people were just preparing, right? And so 4 or 5 years later, I'd get a phone call, hey, we're ready now. We'd like to consider replacing that system. But it helped them know up front what the cost was going to be. So just speaking to customer apprehensions and things of like when you have an emergency service and not knowing fully what to expect, that's one of the things you can do to get ahead of the curve on that. So
something I tell a lot of my friends and stuff too is like, because everyone wants to know, like, when is it going to go out? How much is it going to cost when that happens, right? Like, you want to plan for those things. But in the meantime, the best thing you can do is keep your system clean, change your filter. That's one thing I tell people who are kind of worried, like, well, shoot, that sounds scary. Like, just keep your system clean. You'll get every ounce of it that you can, which is something that we love to do, and take care of people and just helping take care of that part. It's something they don't know how to do in life. If they don't, then we help out there. But change your filter, keep your system clean. You can make it last as long as it'll go.
I think one thing that's hard to do as we think about having all done this for many years now is then taking all of that away and putting ourselves in somebody's shoes that knows nothing. And so as we kind of consider that, what are some things you guys can think of if you knew nothing, if you had no experience in the industry, what would be something you have an apprehension about or a concern? Like if something did happen to my heating and cooling system, or it was an emergency, or I need to replace a system, what would be something you would worry or be concerned with?
My first things first would be cost, right? How much does this cost, right? Because most people, including myself, before I started doing heating and air conditioning, I didn't know what anything was. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't care. My house was hot and it was cold, and I was cool with it. Like there's no in between. So you don't notice it till you need it, right? So if something like that breaks, my first thought would be, like, hey, how much does this cost? What is this going to cost me to either fix it or replace it, or how old is it? And just kind of getting some information on it would be the first and foremost for me.
I think that's interesting because we can drive around and we know the price of trucks and when cars, because there's car lots all over town, right? And so you can pull in, and if you're curious, you can see it. There's no car lot for heating and air conditioning. Let's just cruise through this and see what looks good today, right? And so, definitely the understanding what the cost would end up being, because we have some people where they're, we'll go in and present a price to some people, and they're like, "Well, that's a lot cheaper than I thought it was going to be." In the exact, same scenario, we go into another person's home and they're just like, "Wow, I didn't expect it to be that." And so there's this huge range of knowledge of how much to expect when you're going to have to replace a system. And so it's interesting to see that when a comfort advisor goes out and somebody's like, "Well, that's a lot cheaper than I thought it was going to be." We don't hear that a lot, but there's some people that have either done some research and kind of have an idea of what it's going to run. And so I think that kind of helps prepare them for what it's going to look like when it happens.
Do you think it's the younger generation that thinks, "Oh man, that was cheaper than I thought," and maybe the older generation? Because I remember I bought one of these before back in '94, and I remember it wasn't even close to this much. Right?
Older generation thinks everything should be cheaper.
Yeah, it should be cheaper. Steve. So
it is crazy though. Like even 10 years ago, stuff was 3 times less than it is now. Like everything across the board has been. It's different. It's a lot more expensive all across the board. So
I think about one thing, and I don't know, I guess maybe this is the intent of the podcast, is to relate what we know and then into somebody's shoes that doesn't know. Because as a homeowner not knowing anything, I probably would know, I wouldn't know if I should maintenance my system or not. Sometimes and the only reason I've realized that is because I get that question from people. Like, "Well, my AC is just sitting out there. Like, what should I do with it? Should I have it serviced? Is it good just to run until it doesn't anymore?" Because that's really the biggest thing, is you don't realize how much of a part your heating and air conditioning system plays in your life until it's not working anymore. And then you're like, "Oh, I see. Like, this keeps me comfortable all the time. And now it's 85 degrees in my house, or now it's 50 degrees in my house, and it's not working and it should be. What should I have done to this system that maybe this wouldn't have happened?" Because it's just so important. So thinking about that, I think one thing is just encouraging people to, hey, do maintenance. You should have your system looked at, whether it's on a biannual program like we offer, where it just keeps you informed, or if it's just like a one-time inspection, or even just if you've never had it done, have it done at least once. Find out what kind of shape your system's in, and at least it'll give you some peace of mind of like, wow, this needs a lot of work, or actually it's working pretty well. But just call an expert who can tell you actually what kind of condition your system's in, rather than just saying, "Oh, I guess it's good." It's just finding that information that is available. And that's another thing that AI can't do for you, right? Is, hey, what shape is my air conditioner in? It's not there looking at it until somebody actually goes in and puts their tools and their instruments and gauges and stuff on the system to really determine how it's operating.
I think that's something too that's so important now, that things are getting a little more confusing with, is it AI? Is it real? Is it not real? Or it's so expensive. Is that right? Should it be cheaper? Like, that's where it's so important to call the right people. Like, I would have all of you guys over to my house, which I have before. Or, one time Steve was out of town and my AC broke and I was painting. I was like, "No." So I called our on-call tech, "Could you come over? I need some help." But it's so important to know, to have people that you trust, that they're going to tell you the right information. They're going to charge only, the right honest price. It's like dollars don't go as far, so you got to make sure you pick them in the right areas. So it's important. That's something I love about us that we do. That I'll see you at the grocery store and then, have you tell me, "Hey, you guys were out, you did my furnace." And I don't know, it's just cool to be a part of the community. that way.
I think peace of mind too, right? I think for me, a warranty plays a lot of part in that, right? Not only do you, I mean, people make mistakes and we make mistakes and other parts fail sometimes, right? And that's important to know, but knowing somebody's got your back, whoever came out and did the work for you, I think is super important. It's so simple, yet, it's very few and far between in our industry and especially where we live in the Four Corners. So, yeah, just knowing peace of mind after they leave. Hey, if something else goes wrong, I have either a 30-day warranty or a 2-year install warranty or, a 10-year parts and labor warranty, whatever the circumstance brings. But I think I'll pay any amount of money for peace of mind, right? To know that me and my family are comfortable and we're safe and my stuff's not going to explode and this and that. So,
Yeah, I think on that end of it, right? You guys are asking questions. I'm thinking technically on what the cause and effects are of maintenance, no maintenance. Anytime you're going to run a blower, it's going to be moving air, and there's particles in the air that are going to get caught up in the system. Hopefully, they get caught in the filter, depending on what kind of filter you're using. But it's still going to go through your system, right? And so, as your unit's running, if you haven't had it tuned up in 10, 5, however many years, right? As that stuff starts to collect on your coils and on your blower and outside, if you live toward the river and you got a lot of cottonwood from the cottonwood trees flying around, it's going to raise your cost to operate that and shorten the life of the unit. So as we get cotton on the condenser coils, our head pressures go up, and it just stresses out the system a lot more. And so it's kind of one of those, do I wait 5 years to get it done? Or do I get it done on a routine basis where you're going to pay the bill either way? It's probably to the electrical company at some point, or the gas company, or whoever it is that you're paying because your system's not running at its peak efficiencies. So that's where I'd go with it. I can't think I've been doing it for too long, like 27 years. I can't go back to not knowing anything about heating and air conditioning. So
I think we should make a Steve GPT. Like instead of ChatGPT, like we'll just take Steve,
yeah.
make him AI, and then ask all of our questions.
Yeah, I'm sure you could with ChatGPT.
We totally
just
could.
make okay. Listen, you're now Steve.
Yeah,
and
answer in the form of Steve. I have a technical question.
Hilarious. That's so funny.
I think that's another good question though. Like we have this a lot. A lot of people go to Home Depot and Lowe's and see a wall of filters, and like, is it the thicker the better? Do I want the MERV 14? Like, what kind of filter do I put in my system? Like, I want to be safe and secure. Do I get this big fat one? Does it cause issues? Because we see a whole nother side of what filter to put in there. Sometimes bigger is not always better.
So this is the gospel according to Richard, but
Richard GPT.
I'm going to throw my tie over my shoulder on this. Inside joke. Anyway, but I always tell people, and I actually don't, this is where I mean that this is just what I think. I probably should research it, but I don't know that pleated filters, like the ones that look like a fabric material and they're shaped like an accordion, that a lot of people are really drawn to using because the marketing is really good on them, of clean up your air and all of that kind of stuff. I really think it was a marketing thing where these filter companies or whoever it is saw an opportunity to say, hey, this is a better filter. You should buy this filter. And in turn, it's a more expensive filter. But your average heating and air conditioning system was not designed to handle that kind of a restriction. Can we make a system work with those filters? Yes, but it takes a lot more ductwork and a lot more system design to make those filters work. So just grabbing that filter and putting it right in place of your existing system, I would say 98% of the time a system's not designed to handle that. But the filter companies never really looked at the HVAC design and decided that was a good thing. They just looked at it as a marketing option, for people. And it is, right? Better filters do help your air, but you have to just be aware that there are things you should do to your system to actually be able to run a filter like that. And honestly, there's other better options out there to help clean the air and remove the particles than just using a really dense filter.
That's a super good point. I always explain it to customers that really similar to what you just said. To me, a filter isn't meant to clean your air. It's meant to keep your system clean, right? It's meant to keep the dirt and the debris out of your system at the end of the day. If you're worried about the quality of air, go IAQ products. We're a firm believer. I mean, whether you go Remy Halo or you go in iWave or you go, there's a dozen different ways you can go with that. And I think if you're really worried about the filtration of your air, go IAQ, because the the filter, is it going to catch stuff, but is it going to cause you longer problems in the long run? And the answer is yes. Yeah, the more dirt that gets in it, and you turn that thing into straight carpet because you haven't cleaned it, you haven't changed it out in 6 months. I mean, you're gonna end up smoking a motor, or there's a ton of things, flooding a compressor. There's a ton of things that could happen that could go wrong just over a dirty filter. So you'd rather. Yeah, there's a little less SMRV rating on a non-pleated filter, but your system is going to love you so much more. It's going to make or break the whole, because then you have a little bit of leeway. That's something I use a lot with the customers too, is you have some leeway there. That way, if your filter gets dirty, then essentially you're not restricting as much air as you are with a pleated filter, because right off the rip, you're restricting half the airflow of what you wanted in the first place. So
I think that's one thing that's so great, like about technology. Like, you can Google things. Like, if you have a question, just ask. That's one thing that's awesome about us too, is like people can call and just ask, like, well, what about this? What about that? And we're that trusted source. Like, you got the best of both worlds here in Farmington. You got the AI, you got the technology stuff, but then you have good people that can help in your home, like where it really counts. So if you have a question, just ask.
Mm-hmm. That's what we're here for.
My favorite thing is when customers walk in the door. I love to help
Yeah.
customers in the front. That's it, because a lot of that, right? I don't work in the service. I know enough about the industry. I know a little bit about motors. I know about the specifics, some of the stuff like people come in with, and where I'm like, I mean, I'm pretty sure, like I know that I know, but I better go ask Steve. Let me pull up the Steve GPT and we'll test this out just to make sure I'm doing what I'm doing. But it's pretty interesting. Yeah, I love when people walk through the door or I really love ductwork. People walk through the door. Hey, I'm looking for this. I'm like, hey, come to the whiteboard. Let's take a look at this. Let me draw you what I think you're saying. That way we're on the same page. Yeah. Those are also a lot of fun.
I think it's fun when there's like 3 or 4 people that are helping somebody up front, and then they come and grab me, and I'm like, hey, that's a mobile home motor, right?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, yeah. All right. That's off a wall furnace, right?
I don't know how you do it. It blows my mind.
Oh, that's a Linux. That's a Linux
Does
Linux switch right there.
Does it have 4 red wires that come on the left side and they do this and that? We're like, how did you know?
Please help us. Train us in your ways.
Yeah.
So we have about 4 or 5 minutes left. One thing I think we should highlight is we've talked a lot of technical. What, aside from the technical, what do you think apprehensions would be of, like, now I have an emergency. My system's not blowing cold air like it's supposed to. It's not heating like it's supposed to. When you pick up the phone, or you to either schedule online or do research or call the company, what initial apprehensions do you think you would have as far as choosing the right contractor? What things are you looking for that help you know that you've chosen the right one?
I want somebody to, at the end of the day, I'm a simple person. I want somebody to show up when they tell me they're going to show up. I want you to be on time. I want you to do exactly what you tell me that you're going to do. I mean, and it sounds like, well, duh, everybody should do that, but you would be surprised about how often we do not get that in our industry, right? And that's not doing our Farmington community any justice, I feel like. It does happen. We do also make mistakes, but we try to make them very few and far between, and try to do the right thing all the time. So, like, if I was calling somewhere where I don't know anything about anything, if I call the Comcast guy and he says he's going to be at my house at 9:00, I expect him to be there at 9:00. But if you're calling the gas company, they're going to tell you that they're going to be there between 9 and midnight, and any time in between, and you must be there and available whenever they get there. So
It's usually midnight.
exactly, yeah, and it's always the end of the time frame. So, but at the end of the day, just do what you say you're going to do. Show up when you say you're going to show up, and just treat me right. Be polite. It's all the simple things that I think the world's missing now. Ever since COVID, it's kind of went really downhill. Of everybody, you can't trust anybody, or they just won't show up. They won't answer your phone call. They won't, they just don't do what they say they're going to do.
What else?
I look at warranties too. Like of course I'm going to look at the reviews and kind of make my choice and have somebody come, and then I'm going to fill it out. And then kind of towards the end, it's going to be like, okay, are you going to warranty this? Are you going to come back? So some of those things are really important about making a purchase, right? Even if I'm buying something off the shelf and you can compare 2 different ones, it's like, okay, well, which one's going to give me the better warranty? That's what I'm looking for, is like, I don't want something to go wrong. Which one is going to help me know that it's not going to go wrong for me? So warranties are that way.
For me, I don't like surprises, right? And so if somebody's out at my house and then I end up getting just a random invoice at the end of the job, that would be a little frustrating for me. And so one thing that we pride ourselves on is our guarantee is upfront pricing or it's free. So if our technician or if our sales, our comfort advisor, whoever it is, if they don't present you with a price and we end up putting it in, we're not going to charge you for it. So we make sure that the customer is aware, hey, the diagnostic is this much. Once we figure out what's wrong with it, the technician's going to give you a price on what it's going to take to repair it. And now there's some times where if it's like a gas valve, we can't test past that. And if the furnace isn't working, we're going to tell you, hey, for right now, I got to replace the gas valve. It's going to cost X amount of dollars. Once I get that in, I can finish diagnosing your system. So there may be additional stuff, but we have those conversations ahead of time before, so the customer is aware that not going to randomly be $2,000 at the end of this, right? That you're going to know up front what it looks like. And I think for me, the surprise is the hard part for me. Hey, good luck. So
yeah. By the way, yeah, you needed a compressor, so I went ahead and changed that out for you. Okay, that's an R22 system. So could have got a new one.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think as we wrap this up, I appreciate everybody's input and feedback. The world has changed. Amazon's changed it for us. The way people buy and purchase things is different now than it has been, even just like Michelle said, 5 or 10 years ago. That aspect is very different. So our whole intention is to make this easier on our community. We want to be the go-to experts in our field. We don't want to, try to just send somebody out who's not trained very well, and we're not there to do that at all. We have a very rigorous training program, and I think that's kind of my input on this as far as what apprehensions I would have as far as calling a company is I just want somebody that knows what they're doing. If I can't do it myself, I don't want to call somebody who also isn't for sure on what they're doing. I want to be able to call somebody and know that that's a well-trained technician, that they're going to have the knowledge, and if they don't, that they have the resources like all of us here that they can call and we can put our heads together. And that happens quite a bit, right? We do come across problems where we have to put our heads together, but we're in it till the end and to be quick and efficient and just get in and get out. I was very impressed with here recently. I had a company here in town pour some concrete at my house, and I've poured concrete before and I probably could do it right, but I was very impressed just as far as how easy it was. They showed up when they said they were going to show up. They obviously knew what they were doing because it was quick and painless and all of that. And then it's just, he kept me informed step by step. And 4 days later, I had a bunch of concrete poured and it looked very nice. And really that's, on the flip side of that, I don't want to call somebody that I feel like I paid a lot of money to, that in turn I had to babysit or get a second opinion or call them back a bunch of times. And so that's really, for everybody out there, that's what we strive to do. We strive to train all of our guys very well. We rigorously train and make sure that we're putting qualified professionals out there and making sure that people are in good hands and that they can trust and know that we're there to take care of them. But other than that, you guys have any other final feedback?
Yeah, I don't know. You bring up a really good point. We have such a good team here, man. It's crazy. I can't say this for sure, but I guarantee we're up there in probably the top 5, I bet, in NATE certifications as a whole at a company, which is that's crazy. I mean, that's crazy. Whenever our proctor comes in and he gives us NATE tests, he's all, you don't see this, and I give NATE tests all over the state. Right. So it's like per like all of our guys, we require them to have NATE certifications. That's how they move up in their career. We want them to try to push and strive to be better on a daily basis. And if that doesn't make them better, then I don't know what will. Right. And sadly, I mean, there is a downside to that too, right? Some of the guys, sometimes this isn't the industry for everyone. So they have to take these tests and they end up being like, you know what, I'm burnt out. I hate this. This isn't for me. And sometimes that's a good thing for them too, so they can move on and go do something else. But I think we push our guys and we put a lot of training into them, and we want them to be really good. Not just for us as a company, but we want the customer to get the best at the end of the day. So I think that makes a big difference in how things come out and how satisfied the customer is and how well we do our job. So you
can just tell. We have customers that walk in our door and they're like, it just feels cool here. Like, I want to work here. Like, you can just tell if something's going well, you know, if people are on the same page, rowing the same boat. It's just a fun atmosphere.
And we've hired some customers.
I know, that's
So,
the best.
Love it.
Yes.
Like, what do we have 2 or 3 on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 people that have been customers, and they're like, you know what? Like Kayla, we were doing her house, and the guys were at her house installing.
We
her
did an
system.
interview.
Yeah, and she was all, "Hey, I have to leave. I'm going to an interview at your work, so I'll be back." So I thought that's pretty funny.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, speaking of that, as far as the career path goes, we get through the podcast here. I've got a level up test with one of our maintenance techs. So it's kind of cool how we get that, and they can see their whole career path laid out in front of them. And it's not easy. You know, we expect them to know the stuff before they can move forward. And I think that's just our responsibility as a heating and air conditioning contractor in our community, is to make sure that we're not, one, setting up our guys to fail and sending them into a project that they can't handle, and 2, not setting the community or the customers up to fail. We send somebody out there that doesn't know what they're doing. So we have a way of tracking that, and we don't let them run out and do demand calls when they're not ready for it. And so I think that's the greatest part of that career path that we have, is the guys aren't getting frustrated because they're not going out there and they have no idea what's going on. And so I think there's some comfort there. I think some of them want to move up faster, and when they actually take the test, they're like, okay, maybe I'm not there, you know? And so at least there's these benchmarks that they get to go off of and know where they're at. And so I think that's great for them.
I love it. Well, appreciate everybody joining us today. Another one in the books. And like we talked about this whole podcast, if you need something, we're here to help. So we're a phone call away. We're a technician or a comfort advisor or installer, whatever it is away. You can walk through our doors. Like Skylar said, we love having people come in to see us and ask questions, and that's what we're here to do. So to all of you, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye now.
See you later.
Later, dudes.